Yes. Is the mic on? Mic's good? Okay.
Yes.
This is Colson Whitehead. It is May 27th, 2020, and I'm in the United States.
Hello, Colson Whitehead.
How do you do?
Fine, thank you. How do you do? And what are you feeling those days towards all we've been living those last months?
Yeah, well, I guess been in quarantine for 11 weeks now. And like everyone, there's some okay days, some days that aren't so great. Most of the days seem the same. So if I can make sure my kids' Wi-Fi is working so they can go to school, and if I can make sure we eat our leftovers so we're not wasting too much food, and we can prolong our trips to the store. If we get, bring groceries to our grandparents, we're pretty happy. And if we can enjoy each other's company, me and my kids and my wife, that's like a good day.
Now, reading and writing has always been a big part of your life, as they really helped you to see the world in another way. Do they have a special place now in those times of anxiety and of uncertainty?
Well, I think in the last 3 months, I've read one short story. So I'm only reading newspapers and get the daily reports on the misery. But after a slow start, I started writing, and I've been, slowly figuring out how to write between the distractions of what's going on and the kids and food foraging. So I'm glad that I figured out a way to work, and that sort of keeps me grounded.
Now, you've been fond of horror movies. There was a time that you really liked them. Do you have the impression that because of the coronavirus, we are living in a kind of worldwide horror movie?
Well, I mean, if you asked a migrant child in one of our concentration camps on the border, if we were suddenly thrust into a horror movie, they would say, no, we've been in a horror movie for the last 18 months. And so uh, those ideas about the world are very relative depending on where you're coming from.
And how do you live that? How do you live that in the US, and to see suddenly desert places, places where there are normal life and things like that? How do you feel that on personal level?
It's uh, uh, a lot to take in. I think I don't have anything particularly wise to say about it. We adjust and try to survive, and hopefully uh, we'll see our loved ones on the other side once it's all
Mhm.
over, much as it can be over.
Now, in Underground Railroad, your novel that was published by Albin Michel and that got you the first Pulitzer and the National Book Award, you write that all men are born equal, but one can decide that you're not human. Now that the poor, the elderly, and the minorities are the more touched by the coronavirus, do you have the impression that those inequalities are even bigger?
No, I think it's a continuation of how it's always been. If you're a person of color, if you're poor, you're brutalized by the system, and uh, perhaps we're more aware of it because of the death count and the body count. But it's the structure reasserting itself. The structure that's always been there, expressing itself as it always has.
Do you have the impression also that there is a bigger gap? Now, we see that in certain towns, 70% of the victims are Black. How is this community reacting, and what mirror does it show us of the US?
I'm not a spokesman for the Black community, so I can't speak for everybody. Again, it expresses the structure that's always been there, and so it may be news to some people. It's not news to, I think, a lot of people who understand how the world works.
What about the political of Trump towards all that? How do you feel that?
The same, he got elected because the majority of white people in the country wanted him in office. He's there. He's been destroying institutions. He's been corrupt. He's been corrosive for the last 3.5 years, and hopefully in November we'll get him out.
Do you have the feeling that what is happening, that people are getting more conscious about what politics can lead to?
Well, I think yes, but the same way we forget about the Nazis, we forget about Jim Crow. After we always forget the lessons of history. So yes, we're being introduced to a unique form of evil in Donald Trump. We'll forget about it, years from now and repeat our mistakes.
You're speaking about the lessons of history, and through novels that you're writing, like Nickel Boys, who got you the second Pulitzer and who will be coming out in France in August again at Albin Michel, you show us that. You show us the forgotten part and the invisible parts of history. Why is it so important for you?
It's not. It's I've written about poker. I've written about history. I've written about growing up in the 80s, and so I have a lot of different interests. And what I like about my work is that if I keep writing, I'm finishing my 10th book now, I can write about different things that interest me. And so history interests me, as does poker, as does zombies. And if you read my first book about elevators, I find elevators in cities very interesting as well.
And what can history tell us about today in a book like this, for instance?
A book like Nickel Boys?
Yes.
Well, hopefully, I'm finding a way to talk about the past. It allows us to see where we're coming from and where we're going. I mentioned not learning from the mistakes of history. But perhaps there's, some reader out there who can read the story of Cora in the Underground Railroad, or read the story of Elwood and Turner in the Nickel Boys, and see history in a new way, and see their relationship to the world in a new way.
Now, this novel is based on a true story. Why is it important to give it a new light through fiction?
I didn't think it was important or not important. I found the story interesting, and it stayed with me, and it seemed there was this place, a reform school for boys in Florida, for 110 years, and where a lot of abuses happened, and I never heard about it. And it seemed like if there's one place like this, there are many places like this. And there's a story of the white students and a story of the black students. And so I wondered what the story of the black side of campus would be. So again, I don't find the stories I tell important or not important. That's for other people to decide. I just have a artistic imperative or compulsion or interest, and that's what brings me to different subjects. How can I, in writing about the apocalypse in Zone 1, figure out my own personal apocalypses and how I survived them? How can I write about this historical event, the Dozier School for Boys, and find the new angle that hasn't been told before? So I'm really appeasing my own artistic impulses, and whether the stories are important or not important are up to the readers.
Now, we also see that in those books, you give a voice, you give a face to the one who haven't, who are forgotten by history, and who are often not listened to. Why can fiction, why can writers give them a new face and talk to us on another way?
Well, I think, there are different kinds of writers. There are writers who write about nature. There are writers who explore philosophy and nonfiction. For me, what I like about writing fiction is that I can make up situations and insert my own characters and explore real life events in a fantastic way. And sometimes it's the fantasy is very broad, as in the Underground Railroad. It's very fantastic. And sometimes it's very realistic, as in the Nickel Boys. And so I like writing, another reason I like writing novels is that I can get my situation, get my characters together, and then explore different parts of the world. And so being able to make up things allows me to see the world in a different way, and maybe the reader can come along on that ride.
Mm-hmm. Now, your hero discovers Martin Luther King, who says that darkness can't drive away darkness, that only light is capable of it. Is it also what you believe?
That's Martin Luther King. That's not me. I think sometimes truth and beauty win, and sometimes evil and corruption win. And there's that war uh, back and forth. I'm not sure what defeats evil. I'm not sure what defeats the darkness. Um, in terms of the Nickel Boys, maybe just surviving is defeating the darkness. You know, I follow these two kids in the 1960s and beyond as they grow into men and move out into the world and try to shake off what's happened to them, the trauma of the abuse they suffered at the school. So maybe fighting the darkness is surviving and making a life for yourself in the world of evil.
And how do you survive racism?
Uh, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Because it's present in different of your books, like a fight, as something that you want to show also.
You survive. The world is sexist, racist, homophobic. We hate each other for many different reasons, and whether your skin is brown, or you like to have sex with a certain kind of person, or you worship a certain kind of God, you endure in a world that's very prejudiced and discriminatory.
Mm-hmm. Now, Martin Luther King also says, I have a dream, which is his famous sentence. What are your dreams today, and what light do you wish to see, or do you still believe in?
Well, I believe that, I think we're a pretty dumb species, but over time, I hope that we'll recalibrate from our rightward fascistic trend in terms of politics in America and Europe and South America. I hope we'll find a more humanistic way of dealing with each other. I hope that we'll get a handle on the environment and stop the world from burning. I realize that my generation and the previous generation have screwed things up pretty terribly. So I hope that my kids' generation has better sense and can help right the ship. So those are my dreams, that the world won't be over in 80 years.
You've been speaking about your children. What message do you want to bring out to the children about the world of tomorrow? Because a kind of crisis like this also shows us our fragilities.
The kids in general, I don't know. I talked to some New York high school students last month. They're reading the Nickel Boys, and I zoomed into their class, and I wanted to tell them to hang in there. I talked about the mission of saving the world. It's really up to them. And New York's going through a hard time. It'll take their fortitude and their vision to bring the city back next year and the year afterwards. And it'll also take their vision and drive and strength to right the world. So do a better job than we did. That's one thing. And don't give up, because no one else can do it but you.
Now, The Nickel Boys also is a book about fragilities and how you try to grow up with that. What did you learn through your own fragilities as a man and as a writer?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure about this book in particular. I mean, I think over time, I've become more open, and I've become a better person, as a parent and a husband and a comrade to my friends over the last 25 years, I hope, and that makes the work richer. So I would say starting with Sag Harbor, which is a very personal book. I think my characters have lived more because I live more and I understand myself and other people more. And so I guess I learned in this book, a little 10% more about what it is to be a person in the world, and with Underground Railroad, another 10%, and my book about poker before that, a little 10%. So I'm on a trip as a person trying to become a better being in the world, and then hopefully whatever I learn in that journey is reflected in the books and makes them a little bit better.
And what about literature? Do you think this is one of the lights too that can change the world?
Uh, yes, but also we're pretty dumb, and books aren't as central as they should be. When the Nickel Boys, as central in the culture, when the Nickel Boys came out, people were like, do you think this book will change how we treat juvenile offenders?" And I was like, "No." And people were, "How can you say that? I mean, you wrote this book." And I think, frankly, the people who need to read the book, politicians, legislators, don't necessarily read a lot of literary fiction. So in terms of political structures, I'm not sure what novels can do. I don't think they're as central in the culture as they should be. Um, but of course, on an individual level, whether it's a novel, a poem, or a movie, or a song, art has a way of making us better people if we're open to it.
And how did they change you?
I've been going through some old boxes of like my high school, books, and seeing like a short story I wrote about vampires when I was 12, and my old H.P. Lovecraft books and my Stephen King's. And I've been thinking about how much, pleasure I got as a 10-year-old, a sixth grader, a high school kid, um, in finding these different writers who spoke about the world in different ways. And over the years, finding different voices that have reflected my own struggles and dreams and aspirations. And in terms of style, taught me how to write a sentence or, put a word down. And so I've always felt very lucky to have found books early. And uh, it makes me very gratified when people say they like this or that book of mine. It's touched them in a way that, these books I read when I was a kid touched me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that, Colson. I hope we'll be touching a lot of people through your books and literature. Please take care, and I wish you all the best.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye.